The massive space station Kepler-7 floated in the darkness between stars like a metal city. Its walls stretched for miles in every direction. Bright lights glowed from thousands of windows where alien scientists worked day and night. This was the most important research station in the galaxy. Dr. Kyung-ho walked quickly down the main corridor. His footsteps echoed on the cold metal floor. Strange creatures moved past him in both directions. Some had blue skin and tall, thin bodies that looked like stretched humans. Others resembled walking lizards with sharp teeth and glowing yellow eyes. A few had tentacles instead of arms that wiggled as they moved. All of them ignored the human scientist as he passed by. Kyung-ho had worked on this station for 3 long years. Every single day, he still felt like an outsider who did not belong here. The other species thought humans were too emotional and weak for real science. They said human knowledge was primitive, compared to their advanced understanding of the universe. Each morning, Kyung-ho had to prove again that humans deserved to work alongside the great minds of the galaxy. He reached the main laboratory where his daughter Sora was hunched over a computer screen. She studied data about alien plants that grew in poisonous soil. Her long black hair fell across her face as she concentrated on the numbers and charts. At 19 years old, she was the youngest scientist working on the entire station. Most of the aliens thought she was just a silly child pretending to do real research. Sora looked up when she heard her father approach. "The Velkari scientists are complaining about me again, Father. They say I am too young and too human to handle dangerous specimens safely." Kyung-ho let out a tired sigh. The Velkari were known as the most logical species in the entire galaxy. They had pale blue skin that seemed to glow and large round heads filled with incredibly advanced brains. They controlled most of the important research projects on the station. Dr. Rixmore led their group, and he made no effort to hide his strong dislike for all humans. "Let them complain all they want." Kyung-ho told his daughter, "Your scientific work speaks for itself. You understand these alien creatures better than researchers with twice your experience and education." Sora smiled at her father's kind words, but worry still showed clearly in her dark brown eyes. She had grown up living on research stations throughout the galaxy. She truly loved studying strange alien life forms from distant worlds, but the other species never took her work seriously because she was both human and young. The laboratory door slid open with a soft mechanical hiss. Commander Talvin entered the room with heavy boots that shook the floor. He was a Drakmor warrior, who stood 7 feet tall with gray scaly skin covering his entire body. Sharp claws grew from his fingertips and red eyes scanned the room, constantly looking for any possible threats. This happened even though they were perfectly safe inside the protected research station. "Dr. Kyung-ho," Commander Talvin spoke in a deep voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "The High Council wants to see you right now. This meeting concerns the dangerous creature we keep locked in Section 9. Sora felt a cold chill run down her spine when she heard those words. Section 9 was the most heavily guarded and dangerous part of the entire space station. The scientists kept their worst and most deadly specimens locked behind thick metal walls and powerful energy force fields. Sora had never been allowed to enter that forbidden area of the station. "What has happened with the creature now?" Kyung-ho asked very carefully. Commander Talvin clicked his sharp claws together in obvious annoyance. "It killed another complete research team yesterday afternoon. That makes 17 total deaths in just 2 months of study. The High Council is quickly losing patience with this failed experiment." The 3 of them walked through the long, winding corridors of the station toward the administrative center. Sora followed quietly behind her father and the massive Drakmor commander. Other scientists and workers quickly stepped aside to let Commander Talvin pass without blocking his path. His warrior species were known throughout the galaxy as fierce fighters who preferred to solve difficult problems with violence instead of careful thinking. The High Council chamber was a large round room with comfortable seats, arranged in a perfect circle. Important representatives from 12 different alien species sat waiting for them to arrive. Admiral Han Sol commanded the entire research station. He was human like Kyung-ho, but much older with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. Next to him sat the pale Dr. Rixmore of the Velkari species. His blue skin seemed to glow softly under the bright artificial lights of the chamber. "Dr. Kyung-ho," Admiral Han Sol began speaking in a serious tone, "we urgently need to discuss the terrible situation with specimen 347. This is the creature that your research team calls the Void Reaper." Sora had heard frightened whispers about this mysterious creature throughout the entire station. The other scientists were absolutely terrified when anyone mentioned its name. They said it could drive intelligent beings completely insane just by thinking hostile thoughts at them. The creature had been captured from somewhere far beyond normal space and brought here for detailed scientific study. Dr. Rixmore stood up very slowly from his chair. His large black eyes stared directly at Kyung-ho without blinking once. This research experiment has been a complete and total failure from the beginning. The creature cannot be properly contained by any method we have tried. It moves between different dimensions whenever it wants to escape. Our most powerful psychic shields and barriers are completely useless against its strange abilities. 17 of our best people are now dead because of this monster, added another scientist who had bright green tentacles growing where arms should be. How many more brilliant minds must die before we finally admit this research is completely hopeless? Commander Talvin stepped forward with his hand resting on his weapon. The mighty Drakmor Empire suggests a very simple solution to this growing problem. We should destroy the creature immediately along with the entire Section 9 area. Powerful plasma charges can vaporize everything and end this threat forever. Absolutely not, Kyung-ho replied firmly while shaking his head. That incredible creature could hold the most important key to understanding dimensional physics. We cannot simply destroy it just because studying it involves some danger. This goes far beyond simple danger, Dr. Rixmore replied in his cold, logical voice. The creature is actively hostile toward all life forms. Every single species that has attempted to communicate with it has failed completely. Our most skilled psychic specialists cannot even approach its containment cell without suffering severe mental damage that lasts for weeks. Admiral Hansol rubbed his tired forehead with both hands. The creature constantly emits some unknown kind of psychic energy that completely overwhelms the minds of anyone who gets too close to it. Our Talaki psychic experts describe the experience as feeling like having your brain slowly torn apart from the inside out. Sora listened to the heated discussion with growing curiosity and interest. She had always wondered about the dangerous mysteries that were locked away in the forbidden Section 9. While all the important adults argued loudly about destroying the creature, she quietly wondered if there might be a completely different approach they had not considered yet. What if we tried thinking about this problem in a new way? Sora asked quietly. Every single alien representative in the room turned to stare at the young human girl. Dr. Rixmore made a sound exactly like air slowly escaping from a punctured balloon. Does the human child actually believe she can offer useful scientific advice to this council? Sora, her father warned in a sharp voice. This is definitely not the right time for questions. But Admiral Hansol held up one hand to signal for quiet. Let the girl speak her mind. Sometimes fresh eyes can see obvious solutions that years of experience cause us to miss completely. Sora felt nervous with all these important beings staring directly at her and waiting, but she took a deep breath to calm herself and continued speaking. What if this creature is not actually trying to hurt anyone on purpose? What if it is desperately trying to communicate with us, but we simply do not understand how its mind works? Commander Talvin let out a harsh laugh that sounded like breaking glass. I think 17 dead researchers would strongly disagree with that peaceful theory. But please think about it logically, Sora said as she became more excited by her own developing idea. If something intelligent was trapped very far from its home and could not speak your language at all, it would probably become desperate over time. It might try harder and harder to make some kind of contact until it accidentally hurts someone without meaning to cause harm. Dr. Rixmore slowly shook his large head from side to side. That theory is completely impossible. We have carefully analyzed every aspect of the creature's psychic output using our most advanced equipment. It operates on mental frequencies that would instantly destroy any normal intelligent mind. No known species anywhere in the galaxy can safely interact with such dangerous psychic energy. No species that we have tried so far, Sora corrected him politely. The entire room fell into complete silence. Admiral Hansol looked at the young human scientist with suddenly renewed interest. What exactly are you? The next evening, Sora stood outside the restricted Section 9 entrance. Her hands shook slightly as she held the stolen access card she had taken from her father's desk. Red warning lights flashed above the heavy metal door. Signs in 12 different alien languages all said the same thing. Extreme danger, authorized personnel only. Sora took a deep breath and swiped the card. The door made a series of loud clicking sounds as multiple locks opened one by one. She stepped inside and the door sealed shut behind her with a final bang that echoed through the empty hallway. The corridor ahead was much darker than the rest of the station. Emergency lights glowed red along the walls, casting strange shadows everywhere. Sora walked slowly forward. Her footsteps sounded very loud in the silence. She passed several empty laboratory rooms with thick glass windows. Each room was designed to hold dangerous creatures, but they were all empty now. At the end of the hall stood another door marked with even more warning signs. This was the containment area where they kept specimen 347. Sora hesitated for a moment. She thought about her father and how angry he would be if he knew what she was doing. She thought about the 17 dead researchers who had tried to study this creature before, but something inside her mind told her this was important. She had to try a different approach than violence and fear. Sora swiped the access card again and stepped through the final door. The containment chamber was enormous. The ceiling stretched up into darkness above her head. In the center of the room stood a cube made of pure energy. Blue and white light crackled along its edges. Inside the energy cage, something moved in the shadows. Sora walked closer very carefully. The air around the containment field felt strange. It made her skin tingle and her hair stand up. She could hear a low humming sound coming from the energy cube. As she got nearer, the humming grew louder and seemed to vibrate inside her chest. Then she saw the creature clearly for the first time. The Void Reaper was not what she had expected at all. It was not a monster with claws and teeth like the stories described. Instead, it looked like a living cloud of silver mist that constantly changed shape. Sometimes it stretched tall and thin like smoke rising from a fire. Other times it collapsed into a tight ball that pulsed with inner light. The creature seemed to notice her approach. The silver mist swirled faster and the humming sound changed to something that almost sounded like music. But there was sadness in that strange music. Sora could feel emotions coming from the creature even though she did not understand how. She sat down on the floor about 10 feet away from the energy cage. The creature stopped moving and the humming went silent. For several long minutes they simply stared at each other through the crackling energy barrier. Then something incredible happened. Images began forming in Sora's mind. They were not her own thoughts or memories. Someone else was putting pictures into her head. At first the images came so fast they made her dizzy. She saw stars and planets she had never seen before. She saw beings made of light floating through empty space. Sora closed her eyes and tried to slow down the flood of images. When she concentrated harder, the pictures became clearer. She saw a place that was not like normal space at all. Everything glowed with soft light and there was no up or down direction. Creatures made of pure energy floated everywhere like jellyfish swimming in an ocean of stars. This was the creature's home. Sora could feel its memories of that beautiful place. She sensed how peaceful it had been there. The beings communicated by sharing thoughts and emotions directly. There was no need for words or sounds. They lived in perfect harmony with each other. Then the images changed and became dark and frightening. Sora saw the moment when everything went wrong. Strange machines had broken through from normal space into that peaceful dimension. The machines were mining equipment from some alien company. They tore holes in reality itself looking for rare minerals. The creature had been studying near one of these holes when something went wrong with the mining process. A massive explosion pulled it through into normal space against its will. The transition was incredibly painful. It was like being torn apart and put back together incorrectly. Sora opened her eyes and looked at the silver mist floating in the energy cage. Now she understood why it seemed so sad. The creature was not evil or violent by nature. It was just lost and trying desperately to find a way home. The images in her mind continued. She saw the creature's confusion when it first arrived in normal space. Everything here worked differently than its home dimension. Its natural way of communicating caused pain to the three-dimensional beings it encountered. The creature did not understand why its thoughts hurt others so badly. Each time researchers came to study it, the creature tried to make contact. It pushed its thoughts toward them, hoping to explain its situation. But its psychic energy was too powerful for normal minds to handle safely. The researchers died or went insane before they could understand what the creature was trying to tell them. The Void Reaper had watched 17 intelligent beings die, trying to communicate with it. Each death made it more desperate and more sad. It began to believe that it would never find anyone who could understand its true nature. Sora felt tears running down her face as she experienced the creature's loneliness and grief. It had been trapped here for months with no one to talk to. No one who could understand that it just wanted to go home to its dimension of light and peace. She stood up slowly and walked right up to the energy barrier. The containment field buzzed and crackled just inches from her face. The creature's silver mist pressed against the other side of the barrier. Sora could feel its desperate hope that finally someone might be able to help. "I can hear you," she whispered. "I know you do not mean to hurt anyone. You just want to go home." The creature's form pulsed with brighter light. New images flooded Sora's mind. But these were different than before. Instead of memories, these were ideas and concepts. The creature was trying to teach her about dimensional physics and space-time theory. Sora's human brain was not advanced enough to understand most of the complex science. But she could grasp the basic idea. The creature needed help creating a pathway back to its home dimension. It had the knowledge to build such a pathway, but it needed someone to help from this side of reality. More images came showing her exactly what would be required. The process was extremely dangerous for anyone who helped. The helper would need to join minds temporarily with the creature. They would have to become a bridge between the two different types of reality. Every other species that had tried this kind of mental connection had died instantly. Their brains could not handle the strain of linking with a being of pure psychic energy. But maybe humans were different. Maybe their flexible minds could survive what others could not. The creature showed her one final image. It was a picture of Sora herself standing beside the energy cage, but in this image she was glowing with the same silver light as the creature. They were connected by streams of bright energy that flowed between their minds. Sora understood what the creature was asking. It wanted her help to escape this prison and return to its home. But the process might kill her just like it had killed all the others who tried. She looked into the swirling mist that was the creature's form. Somewhere in that cloud of energy was an intelligent being that had never wanted to hurt anyone. It was scared and lonely and far from everything it had ever known. "I will try to help you," Sora said quietly. "But first I need to convince the others that you are not a monster. I need to make them understand that you just want to go home." The creature pulsed with what felt like gratitude. More gentle images flowed into Sora's mind, showing her how grateful it was that someone finally understood. For the first time since arriving in this dimension, the Void Reaper felt hope that it might see its home again. Sora sat back down on the floor and continued receiving the creature's thoughts. She learned that its true name in its own language meant something like Song of the Void or Singer Between Stars. It was not a warrior or destroyer. In its home dimension, it had been something like a teacher or scientist studying the barriers between realities. Hours passed as Sora and the creature shared thoughts and emotions. She learned more about dimensional physics in one night than human scientists had discovered in decades of research. But more importantly, she learned that intelligence and kindness could exist in forms very different from anything humans had ever imagined. When the morning shift arrived, they found Sora asleep on the floor next to the containment field. The Void Reaper floated peacefully in its cage, making soft musical sounds instead of the harsh psychic screams that usually came from Section 9. For the first time since its capture, the creature was not trying to break free or lash out in fear and frustration. It simply waited patiently for its new human friend to wake up so they could continue learning about each other. The other researchers could not believe what they were seeing. The most dangerous creature in the galaxy was acting calm and peaceful, and the young human girl who everyone said was too inexperienced for real science had somehow accomplished what their greatest experts could not. Sora had made first contact with an intelligence from beyond normal space, and in doing so she had taken the first. Dr. Kyung-ho ran through the corridors of Section 9 faster than he had ever moved in his life. His heart pounded in his chest as he followed the security guards toward the containment chamber. When the morning shift had discovered his daughter sleeping next to the most dangerous creature in the galaxy, alarms had started screaming throughout the entire station. He burst through the final door and stopped completely in shock. Sora was sitting on the floor having what looked like a normal conversation with the Void Reaper. The creature floated peacefully in its energy cage, making soft musical sounds. This was impossible. The beast that had killed 17 researchers was acting as calm as a pet. "Sora," Kyung-ho called out in a shaky voice. "Step away from that thing right now." His daughter looked up at him with bright, excited eyes. "Father, you have to listen to me. Everything we thought about this creature is completely wrong. It is not trying to hurt anyone. It just wants to go home." Behind Kyung-ho, Admiral Hansol entered the chamber, followed by Dr. Rixmore and several other senior scientists. They all stared in amazement at the peaceful scene before them. The containment sensors showed that the creature's psychic output had dropped to almost zero. For months it had been screaming psychic energy that could be detected throughout half the station. Now it was barely registering on their instruments. Dr. Rixmore pulled out a handheld scanner and pointed it at Sora. The device beeped and flashed as it analyzed her brain activity. His pale blue face went even paler as he read the results. "This is scientifically impossible," he said in a stunned voice. The human girl's neural patterns showed direct psychic contact with the creature. "According to our measurements, this level of exposure should have killed her instantly." Admiral Hansol stepped forward carefully. "Sora, how long have you been in here? Are you hurt? Do you feel any pain or confusion?" Sora stood up and brushed dust off her clothes. "I have been here all night. I feel fine, actually better than fine. I feel amazing. This creature has been trying to communicate with everyone, but no one could understand what it was saying." "Communicate?" Dr. Rixmore made his air-escaping sound again. "The creature emits random psychic noise that destroys brain tissue. There is no communication involved." "It is not random noise," Sora replied firmly. "It is thoughts and memories and emotions. The creature has a name in its own language. It means something like singer between stars. In its home dimension, it was a scientist just like us." The gathered scientists looked at each other in disbelief. Commander Talvin had arrived and was studying the peaceful creature with suspicious red eyes. "If this beast is so harmless, why did it kill 17 of our people?" Sora turned to face the Drakmor warrior. "Because it was scared and confused and trying desperately to explain what happened to it. Imagine if you were torn away from your home and thrown into a completely different world, where you could not speak the language. You would try harder and harder to make people understand until maybe you accidentally hurt someone." She walked closer to the energy barrier. The creature's silver mist moved toward her and began pulsing with gentle light. More images flowed into Sora's mind and she smiled as she received them. "It is showing me its memories right now," she explained to the amazed scientists. "It comes from a dimension where beings are made of pure energy. They communicate by sharing thoughts directly. When mining equipment broke through into its world, Singer Between Stars got pulled into our reality by accident." Dr. Rixmore was frantically taking readings with multiple instruments. "The psychic energy levels around the human girl should be lethal. Her brain should have been fried within seconds of exposure, yet she shows no signs of damage at all." Admiral Hansol rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Sora, why do you think you can communicate with this creature when our best psychic specialists could not even get close?" Sora thought about this question for a moment. Maybe because human brains work differently than other species. Everyone always says we are primitive and simple. But maybe being simple is exactly what we needed for this situation. She gestured toward the creature. "Singer Between Stars tried to communicate with Velkari scientists, but their minds are too rigid and logical. It tried with Drakmor warriors, but they think only about fighting and conquest. It tried with Talaki psychics, but their abilities are too specialized." Dr. Rixmore shook his large head. "Human neural patterns are chaotic and inefficient compared to advanced species. Your brains waste enormous amounts of energy on emotional processing and random thoughts." "Maybe that chaos is what makes the difference," Sora replied. "Singer Between Stars does not think in straight lines like your people do. Its thoughts flow and change like water. Human minds can adapt and flow with those changes instead of fighting against them." To prove her point, Sora placed her hand as close to the energy barrier as she safely could. The creature's mist pressed against the other side of the barrier directly across from her palm. Gentle waves of silver light pulsed between them. "It is sharing more memories with me now," Sora said softly. "I can see its home dimension. It is beautiful beyond anything you could imagine. Beings of pure light floating through space that glows with every color possible. They study the universe by experiencing it directly instead of just measuring it with machines." More scientists had arrived and were crowding into the containment chamber. Word was spreading throughout the station that something incredible was happening in Section 9. The creature that had terrorized them for months was acting completely peaceful around one young human. Girl Dr. Yujin arrived from the Velkari Research Division. She was younger than Dr. Rixmore and more willing to consider new ideas. She began taking her own readings and comparing them with the data from previous incidents. "The creature's psychic signature is completely different now," she reported. "Before it was chaotic and aggressive. Now it shows patterns that suggest complex organized thought. It is almost like the difference between screaming and speaking." Admiral Hansol turned to address all the gathered scientists. "If what Sora says is true, then we may have made a terrible mistake. We assumed this creature was hostile when it was actually trying to ask for help." Commander Talvin remained skeptical. Even if the beast means no harm, it is still extremely dangerous. One mistake and it could kill everyone on this station. Sora received more images from Singer Between Stars and gasped as she understood their meaning. It does not want to hurt anyone. It just wants help getting home. But the process of creating a dimensional gateway is very dangerous. It needs someone to help from this side of reality. What kind of help? Admiral Hansol asked. Someone would have to link minds with it temporarily. They would become a bridge between the two dimensions while Singer Between Stars crosses over. Sora explained. But it knows this is dangerous. Every other species that tried this kind of connection died because their brains could not handle joining with a being of pure psychic energy. Dr. Rixmore stepped forward urgently. Absolutely not. We are not going to allow a human child to risk her life on such a dangerous experiment. But what if humans are different? Sora argued. What if our primitive flexible brains can survive what advanced minds cannot? I am already communicating with Singer Between Stars safely. Maybe I can help it go home. The debate continued for hours as more scientists and administrators arrived. Some wanted to study this breakthrough in human-alien communication. Others wanted to move Sora away from the creature immediately for her own safety. A few still believed the creature was too dangerous and should be destroyed. Through it all, Singer Between Stars waited patiently in its energy cage. It continued sharing gentle thoughts and memories with Sora. For the first time since its capture, the creature felt hope that it might see its beautiful home dimension again. Dr. Yu Jin had been studying her instruments carefully. Finally, she spoke up with an important observation. The creature's presence is having an effect on other specimens throughout the station. The aggressive shard wolves in Section 7 have stopped attacking their handlers. The territorial crystal wasps are building protective patterns instead of fighting each other. What does that mean? Admiral Hansol asked. Sora smiled as she understood. Singer Between Stars is naturally peaceful. Its psychic energy promotes calm and cooperation when it is not distorted by fear and confusion. When it was scared and trying desperately to communicate, its thoughts came out as dangerous static. But now that someone can understand it, its true nature is showing. She looked around at all the scientists and officials gathered in the chamber. This creature could teach us things about the universe that we never imagined possible. But first we have to help it get home where it belongs. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. They had captured what they thought was a monster, but it turned out to be a peaceful scientist from another dimension who just wanted to return to its family. And the key to understanding this incredible being was a 19-year-old human girl whose primitive brain could accomplish what the most advanced minds in the galaxy could not. The question now was whether they would have the courage to trust human intuition over alien logic. The fate of Singer Between Stars and possibly the future of human-alien relations hung in the balance. Over the next 3 days, Sora spent every waking moment in the containment chamber with Singer Between Stars. The creature shared more of its incredible story through streams of images and emotions that flowed directly into her mind. Each new memory painted a clearer picture of the tragic accident that had torn it away from everything it knew and loved. Singer Between Stars had been what humans might call a professor of dimensional physics in its home realm. It studied the invisible barriers that separated different layers of reality. For countless years, it had worked peacefully alongside other energy beings, mapping the complex structures that held the universe together. The creature showed Sora images of its research laboratory, though laboratory was not quite the right word. It was more like a beautiful garden made of living light where thoughts took physical form. Singer Between Stars would think about mathematical equations and they would appear as glowing sculptures floating in space. Other energy beings would add their own ideas and the equations would grow into magnificent works of art that were also advanced. Sora watched these memories with wonder as she sat cross-legged on the cold metal floor. She saw Singer Between Stars working with its colleagues on a particularly difficult problem about dimensional stability. They were trying to understand what happened when two different realities touched each other at their edges. The energy beings had detected strange vibrations coming from somewhere beyond their dimension. Something was pushing against the barriers that kept their peaceful realm separate from other types of reality. Singer Between Stars volunteered to investigate these disturbances because it was the most experienced researcher in barrier physics. The creature floated to the edge of its dimension, where the barrier was thinnest. It extended its consciousness carefully through the dimensional wall to see what was causing the vibrations. This was an extremely delicate process that required perfect concentration and control. What Singer Between Stars found on the other side shocked it completely. Massive machines were tearing holes in the dimensional fabric itself. The mining equipment belonged to a company called Galactic Resources Incorporated. They were searching for rare crystals that only formed where different dimensions touched each other. The mining process was incredibly violent and dangerous. The machines used focused energy beams to slice through the barriers between realities. They had no understanding of how delicate these barriers were or what damage they might cause by breaking through them so carelessly. Singer Between Stars tried to withdraw its consciousness back to safety, but it was already too late. One of the mining beams hit the exact spot where it was examining the barrier. The explosion tore a massive hole between the dimensions and sucked the helpless creature through into normal space. The transition was more painful than anything Singer Between Stars had ever experienced. Its body of pure psychic energy was forced into a reality where such beings could not naturally exist. It felt like being turned inside out and stretched across impossible distances all at the same time. When Singer Between Stars finally stopped falling through space, it found itself in a completely alien universe. Everything here was solid and heavy and cold. The energy beings of its home dimension were nowhere to be found. It was utterly alone in a reality that felt wrong in every possible way. The creature had tried desperately to find a way home. It searched through space looking for other dimensional holes or barriers it might be able to cross. But the mining equipment had sealed the gateway behind it, and Singer Between Stars did not have the tools or knowledge needed to open a new one by itself. Worse still, every attempt to communicate with the solid beings it encountered in this reality ended in disaster. Singer Between Stars could not understand why its thoughts caused so much pain to these creatures. In its home dimension, sharing minds was the most natural thing possible. But here it seemed to destroy anyone who received its mental communications. Sora felt tears streaming down her face as she experienced Singer Between Stars' memories of loneliness and confusion. The creature had watched ship after ship flee from it in terror. It had seen researchers die simply from being too close to its natural psychic field. Each death made it more desperate and more afraid. By the time Galactic Research Station Kepler-7 captured Singer Between Stars, it had been wandering lost through space for over a year. The creature was so grateful to finally have some form of contact with other intelligent beings that it tried even harder to communicate. But its desperate attempts only made its psychic emissions more powerful and more dangerous. Dr. Yujin had been studying the recordings of all previous attempts to communicate with the creature. She worked closely with Sora to understand exactly what made human brains different from other species. Her research was producing amazing results. The key appears to be neural flexibility, Dr. Yujin explained to the gathered scientists. Most species have evolved very specialized brain structures. Felkari minds are optimized for pure logic. Drakmor brains focus on tactical thinking. Telaki psychics have channels designed for specific types of mental communication. She pulled up brain scan images on the main display screen. But human neural networks are much more adaptable. They can restructure themselves rapidly to handle new types of input. When Singer Between Stars shares its thoughts, Sora's brain actually changes its own patterns to match. Dr. Rixmore examined the scans with obvious skepticism. This level of neural adaptation should cause severe brain damage. The human mind is essentially rewriting itself with each contact. But it heals itself just as quickly, Dr. Yujin replied. Human brains have remarkable recovery abilities. They can handle this constant restructuring without permanent harm. Sora had been listening to the scientific discussion while maintaining her connection with Singer Between Stars. Suddenly she gasped and her eyes went wide with alarm. What is it? Her father asked urgently. Singer Between Stars is showing me something terrible, Sora said in a shaky voice. The dimensional hole that the mining company created is not fully healed. It is growing larger and more unstable every day. The creature shared new images with her. Sora saw the barrier between dimensions stretching and tearing like fabric under too much stress. The mining operation had created a wound in reality itself, and that wound was getting worse. If the hole keeps growing, both dimensions could collapse into each other, Sora translated. Everything in Singer Between Stars' home realm would be destroyed. Billions of energy beings would die. Admiral Hansol stepped forward with concern written across his face. How long do we have before this happens? Sora closed her eyes and concentrated on Singer Between Stars' urgent communications. Maybe a few weeks at most. The dimensional barrier is failing faster now because Singer Between Stars' presence in our reality is making the instability worse. Then we have to send it back immediately, Dr. Yu Jin declared. It is the only way to prevent a disaster that could affect both dimensions. Dr. Rixmore shook his head firmly. The process is too dangerous. We would need to create an artificial dimensional gateway. The energy requirements alone could destroy this entire station. Singer Between Stars knows how to create the gateway, Sora explained. It has been studying dimensional physics for thousands of years, but it needs help from someone on this side of reality to anchor the portal and keep it stable during the crossing. Commander Talvin had been quiet during most of the discussion, but now he spoke up with military directness. You are talking about using the human girl as some kind of psychic bridge. The risk to her life is unacceptable. The risk to everyone is unacceptable if we do nothing, Sora replied with quiet determination. Singer Between Stars has shown me what will happen if both dimensions collapse. It would be like two galaxies crashing into each other. Everything we know would be destroyed. Singer Between Stars pulsed with brighter light and shared more detailed images about the dimensional gateway process. Sora watched carefully as the creature explained the exact steps that would be required. It would only take a few minutes, she said after receiving the full procedure. I would need to link my consciousness with Singer Between Stars and help guide it through the dimensional barrier. Once it reaches the other side safely, the gateway would close automatically. And if something goes wrong? Admiral Hansol asked. Sora was quiet for a long moment as she considered this question honestly. Then I would probably be pulled through into Singer Between Stars dimension. A human could not survive there. My physical body would be destroyed. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated the terrible choice they faced. They could try to save both dimensions by risking Sora's life, or they could play it safe and potentially watch billions of beings die when the dimensional barrier finally collapsed completely. Dr. Kyung-ho put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. There has to be another way. We cannot ask you to sacrifice yourself for this creature. It is not just for Singer Between Stars, Sora replied softly. It is for everyone in both dimensions. And maybe I will not die. Maybe human flexibility will let me survive the process when other species could not. The emergency meeting lasted all night in the main conference room. Scientists from every department on the station argued about what to do with Singer Between Stars. Some wanted to attempt the dangerous dimensional gateway procedure immediately. Others insisted it was too risky, and they should look for safer alternatives. Sora sat quietly in her chair listening to the heated discussions. Singer Between Stars had shared detailed plans with her about how the dimensional bridge would work. The process was incredibly complex, but the creature had thousands of years of experience with dimensional physics. It knew exactly what needed to be done. Dr. Yujin stood up and activated the main display screen. Charts and diagrams filled the wall showing brain scan comparisons between different species. The evidence is clear that humans have unique neural advantages for this type of psychic contact. But we still do not fully understand why Sora can communicate safely when others cannot. Admiral Hansol rubbed his tired eyes. They had been debating for 8 hours straight without reaching any agreement. What we need is more time to study this phenomenon properly. But according to Singer Between Stars, time is exactly what we do not have. Dr. Rixmore activated his own scanner and pointed it toward Section 9. Even from this distance, the device could detect unusual energy readings coming from the containment area. The dimensional distortions are growing stronger every hour. Space itself is becoming unstable around the creature's location. Commander Talvin stood up abruptly. I refuse to allow this madness to continue. The creature is too dangerous to keep on this station any longer. We should evacuate everyone immediately and destroy Section 9 with plasma charges. That will not solve the problem, Sora said quietly. Singer Between Stars has shown me what happens if it dies here in our dimension. Its death would release all the dimensional energy it contains at once. The explosion would tear a permanent hole between realities. She stood up and walked to the display screen. Using simple drawings, she tried to explain what Singer Between Stars had taught her about dimensional physics. Think of reality like layers of fabric stacked on top of each other. Each dimension is a separate layer. When the mining company broke through, they tore a small hole in one layer. Sora drew circles representing the hole growing larger over time. Singer between stars being trapped here is like having a heavy weight pressing on the torn fabric. The hole keeps getting bigger under the pressure. Eventually, all the layers will rip apart completely. Dr. Yu Jin studied Sora's simple diagrams with growing understanding. So sending the creature home would remove the pressure and allow the dimensional barrier to heal itself naturally. Exactly, Sora nodded. But only if we can get Singer between stars back to its home dimension quickly enough. If we wait too long, the damage will be too severe to repair. Admiral Hansol looked around the room at all the worried faces. How confident are we that Sora can survive this procedure? What are the actual chances of success? Dr. Rixmore consulted his instruments and data tablets. Based on previous attempts by other species, the survival rate is 0%. Every being that has tried to form a psychic bridge with the creature has died within seconds. But those were not humans, Sora pointed out. My brain works differently than Velkari or Drakmor or Talaki minds. Maybe I can do what they could not. Her father, Kyung-ho, had been silent throughout most of the meeting. Now he spoke up with obvious pain in his voice. Even if you have a better chance than other species, you are still talking about risking your life on a guess. What if human brains are not as different as we think? Sora walked over and took her father's hand. What if they are different enough? What if this is why humans were meant to be part of the galactic community? Not because we are the smartest or strongest, but because sometimes being different is exactly what the universe needs. During the debate, strange reports had been coming in from other sections of the station. The head of security, Lieutenant Min Seok, entered the conference room with an urgent update. Something unusual is happening throughout the station, he reported. All of our dangerous specimens are exhibiting calm behavior. The shard wolves that usually attack anyone who approaches their cage are lying peacefully. The crystal wasps have stopped their territorial fighting and are building cooperative structures instead. Dr. Yujin looked up from her instruments with surprise. The psychic readings show Singer between stars is broadcasting some kind of calming influence. Its mental connection with Sora seems to be creating a network effect. What kind of network? Admiral Hansol asked. Sora closed her eyes and concentrated on her link with Singer between stars. New images flowed into her mind showing her the invisible connections spreading throughout the station. I can see it now. Singer between stars' natural psychic field promotes peace and cooperation. When it was scared and confused, that field was chaotic and dangerous. But now that it feels safe and understood, its true nature is showing. She opened her eyes and looked around the room with excitement. The creature is not just communicating with me anymore. It is creating a web of calm that reaches every living thing on this station. The other specimens can sense its peaceful intentions, and they are responding. Lieutenant Min Seok activated his communicator and spoke to his security teams throughout the station. The reports that came back were amazing. Creatures that had been violently aggressive for months were now docile and friendly. Some were even trying to communicate with their handlers using gestures and sounds. This changes everything, Doctor, Yujin said with growing excitement. If Singer between stars can have this effect on dangerous creatures, imagine what we could learn from studying its abilities. It could revolutionize our understanding of animal behavior and psychic communication. Dr. Rixmore remained skeptical. We cannot base important decisions on speculation about psychic networks. The primary concern must be the dimensional stability crisis. As if responding to his words, the station suddenly shook with a deep vibration that seemed to come from empty space itself. Emergency lights began flashing and computer systems throughout the facility started displaying warnings about spatial distortions. Admiral Hansol activated the main communication system. All departments report status immediately. Responses came in from every section of the station. The dimensional distortions were growing stronger and more frequent. Space around Section 9 was beginning to warp visibly. If the trend continued, the entire station could be pulled apart by conflicting gravitational forces. Sora felt Singer between stars' urgent thoughts pressing into her mind. The creature was showing her images of the dimensional barrier stretching to its breaking point. They had hours at most before the damage became irreversible. "We are out of time," she announced to the room. "Singer Between Stars says the barrier could collapse at any moment. If we are going to try the dimensional gateway procedure, it has to be now." Commander Talven drew his sidearm and pointed it toward the door. "I will not allow this station to be destroyed by reckless experiments. Everyone will evacuate to the emergency ships immediately." "There is nowhere to run," Sora replied calmly. "When the dimensional barrier fails, the destruction will spread faster than any ship can travel. The only safe place will be far enough away that we could never reach it in time." Admiral Hansol made the hardest command decision of his career. "Dr. Yujin, begin preparations for the dimensional gateway procedure. All non-essential personnel will evacuate to minimum safe distance. Those who remain will assist with the operation." Dr. Rixmore protested loudly. "This is madness. We are gambling the lives of everyone on this station on the theories of a human child. We are gambling those same lives on doing nothing," Admiral Hansol replied firmly. "At least this way we have a chance of success." Sora felt a mixture of fear and determination as the reality of what she was about to attempt finally hit her. In a few hours she would link her human mind with a being of pure psychic energy from another dimension. The process might kill her instantly, but it was the only hope for saving both realities from total destruction. Singer Between Stars sent waves of gratitude and encouragement through their mental connection. The ancient creature had waited thousands of years to find someone who could understand its true nature. Now that someone was willing to risk everything to help it return home. As the scientist began setting up equipment for the most dangerous experiment in galactic history, Sora sat quietly and prepared herself for what might be her final act. She thought about her father and how proud he would be if she succeeded. She thought about all the lives that depended on her courage. But mostly, she thought about Singer Between Stars and its beautiful home dimension filled with beings of light and peace. If she died helping the creature return to that wonderful place, at least her sacrifice would have meaning. The young human girl who had always been told she was too primitive for real science was about to become the bridge between two realities. Her simple, flexible mind might be the key to preventing the greatest disaster the universe had ever seen. The final preparations began as time continued running out for everyone on both sides of the dimensional barrier. The containment chamber had been transformed into a complex laboratory filled with advanced equipment from every department on the station. Dr. Yujin and her team worked frantically to set up the dimensional gateway apparatus, while space itself continued warping around them. The walls seemed to bend and twist as reality struggled to hold itself together. Sora stood in the center of the room, surrounded by glowing instruments and crackling energy fields. She wore a special suit covered with sensors that would monitor her brain activity during the dangerous linking procedure. Her father Kyung-ho made final adjustments to the neural interface headset that would amplify her psychic connection with Singer Between Stars. "The dimensional readings are approaching critical levels," Dr. Yujin announced while studying her instruments. "The barrier between realities is stretching beyond its breaking point. We have maybe 30 minutes before total collapse." Admiral Hansol activated the station-wide communication system from his mobile command center. "All non-essential personnel have been evacuated to the emergency ships. Only volunteer crew members remain to assist with the operation." Sora looked around at the people who had chosen to stay behind and help. Her father was there, of course, along with Dr. Yujin and several other scientists. Even Dr. Rixmore had remained, despite his objections to the plan. Lieutenant Min Seok represented the security forces, and surprisingly, Commander Talven had also stayed to provide military support. "Why did you not evacuate with the others?" Sora asked the Drakmor warrior. Commander Talven's red eyes showed something that might have been respect. "A true warrior does not abandon comrades facing impossible odds. If you have the courage to risk your life for strangers, then I have the duty to help you succeed." Singer Between Stars floated in its energy cage, pulsing with urgent light. The creature was sharing constant updates about the dimensional barrier's condition. Each report was worse than the last. Massive tears were appearing in the fabric of space itself. Soon the damage would be too severe for even a successful return journey to repair. Dr. Yujin activated the dimensional gateway generator. A ring of pure energy formed in the air next to the containment field. The ring sparked and flickered as it tried to maintain a stable connection to Singer Between Stars' home dimension. Through the glowing portal, Sora could see glimpses of that beautiful realm, filled with beings of light. The gateway is unstable, Dr. Eugen reported with concern. It keeps collapsing because we do not have enough power to maintain the connection across dimensional barriers. Sora stepped closer to the containment field. Singer Between Stars pressed against the energy barrier from the inside, its silver mist swirling with desperate hope. The creature began sharing detailed instructions about how to stabilize the portal. Singer Between Stars says the gateway needs an anchor on both sides, Sora translated. It will anchor the portal from its home dimension while I anchor it from ours. But I have to lower the containment field and make direct contact. Dr. Rixmore looked up from his instruments in alarm. Absolutely not. Direct contact with the creature's psychic field could kill you instantly. The containment barrier is the only thing protecting you from lethal energy exposure. The barrier is also preventing Singer Between Stars from reaching full power, Sora explained. It needs to access its complete dimensional abilities to hold the gateway open long enough to cross over safely. Her father, Kyung-ho, stepped forward with tears in his eyes. There has to be another way. I cannot lose you to this experiment. Sora hugged her father tightly. You taught me that real scientists sometimes have to take risks to help others. This is my chance to prove that humans belong among the great minds of the galaxy. The station shook violently as another spatial distortion passed through the area. Computer systems sparked and several instruments went offline completely. Through the viewports, the stars outside looked stretched and twisted as space itself bent under the dimensional stress. 10 minutes until barrier collapse, Dr. Eugen announced grimly. After that point, nothing we do will matter. Sora walked to the containment field controls and placed her hand on the shutdown switch. Singer Between Stars moved to the center of its cage and began gathering its psychic energy for the dangerous procedure. The creature's form grew brighter and more defined as it prepared to use its full dimensional powers. Wait, Admiral Hansol said urgently. We are receiving strange reports from all over the station. Something is happening with the other specimens. Lieutenant Min-seok was monitoring communications from his security teams throughout the facility. All dangerous creatures are exhibiting highly unusual behavior. The shard wolves are howling in perfect harmony. The crystal wasps are creating geometric light patterns. Even the plant-based specimens are generating synchronized energy pulses. Sora closed her eyes and extended her psychic awareness beyond the containment chamber. Through her connection with Singer Between Stars, she could sense every living creature on the station. They were all responding to the dimensional crisis by offering their own small contributions of mental energy. They want to help, she said in amazement. Every creature on this station can feel what Singer Between Stars is trying to do. They are creating a psychic support network to boost the dimensional gateway. Dr. Eugen checked her readings and gasped at what she discovered. The combined psychic output from all specimens is enormous. If we can channel that energy through Sora's connection, it might provide enough power to stabilize the portal. Commander Talvin shook his head in disbelief. You are telling me that monsters we have been fighting for months are now trying to save us? They were never really monsters, Sora replied. They were just scared and confused like Singer Between Stars. Now they understand that we are all facing the same danger together. The dimensional readings reached critical levels and alarms began screaming throughout the station. Sora knew they were out of time for more discussion or preparation. She had to act now or watch both realities collapse into chaos. Everyone stand back, she ordered, while gripping the containment field controls. Singer Between Stars and I are going to attempt the linkage now. Her father reached out toward her but stopped when he saw the determination in her eyes. I love you, daughter. Whatever happens, remember that I am proud of the scientist you have become. Sora smiled through her tears. I love you too, father. Take care of Singer Between Stars' story if I do not survive. Make sure everyone knows it was a peaceful being that never wanted to hurt anyone. She pressed the shutdown switch, and the energy barriers around Singer Between Stars' cage flickered and died. Immediately, the creature's psychic field expanded outward, filling the entire chamber with silver light. Sora felt the incredible power of a dimensional being washing over her unprotected mind. The initial contact was overwhelming. Sora's consciousness was flooded with sensations and thoughts that no human brain was designed to handle. She felt herself beginning to dissolve as Singer Between Stars' vast intellect merged with her simple human awareness. But then something unexpected happened. The supportive psychic network created by all the other creatures on the station began feeding energy into Sora's mind. The shard wolves contributed their pack loyalty. The crystal wasps shared their hive mind organizational patterns. Dozens of different species offered their unique mental strengths to help the young human survive. Instead of being destroyed by Singer Between Stars' psychic power, Sora found herself becoming something new. Her consciousness expanded beyond normal human limits while still remaining essentially herself. She became a bridge between the dimensional being and the entire station full of creatures who wanted to help. Together, Sora and Singer Between Stars reached out toward the unstable dimensional gateway. Their combined will grabbed hold of the flickering portal and forced it to stabilize. The ring of energy grew brighter and more solid as power flowed through their psychic connection. Singer Between Stars began moving toward the gateway, but the portal started collapsing under the strain of cross-dimensional travel. Sora realized that she would have to maintain the bridge throughout the entire crossing process. If her concentration failed for even a moment, both she and Singer Between Stars would be lost between dimensions. The creature hesitated at the edge of the portal and sent waves of concern through their mental link. It did not want Sora to sacrifice her life for its freedom, but Sora pushed back with all her human determination and stubbornness. "Go home," she told Singer Between Stars through their psychic connection. "Your people need you to warn them about the dimensional damage. I will hold the bridge as long as I can." With a flash of silver light, Singer Between Stars entered the dimensional gateway and began crossing between realities. Sora felt her consciousness being stretched across impossible distances as she maintained the psychic anchor that held the portal open. The strain was incredible, but the support network of creatures throughout the station continued feeding her energy and strength. She was not facing this challenge alone. Every living being on Kepler-7 was helping in their own way. Sora woke up 3 days later in the station medical bay. Soft white light filled the room and she could hear the gentle humming of life support machines around her bed. Her head felt heavy and strange, as if her brain was still adjusting to being back inside normal human limits after the incredible expansion she had experienced. Dr. Kyung-ho sat in a chair beside her bed reading data tablets. When he saw her eyes open, he dropped everything and rushed to her side. "Sora, thank goodness you are awake. We were not sure if your mind would recover from the psychic strain." "Did it work?" Sora asked weakly. "Did Singer Between Stars make it home safely?" Her father smiled with relief and joy. "Yes, the dimensional gateway procedure was completely successful. The creature reached its home dimension and the portal closed properly behind it. The spatial distortion stopped immediately and the dimensional barrier is healing itself." Sora tried to sit up but felt dizzy from the effort. "What about the other creatures on the station? Are they all right after helping with the psychic network?" "That is the most amazing part," Dr. Kyung-ho replied excitedly. "Every single specimen throughout the station has been permanently changed by the experience. The shard wolves are no longer aggressive. The crystal wasps work together instead of fighting. Even the most dangerous creatures have become peaceful and cooperative." Dr. Yu-jin entered the medical bay carrying an armload of research equipment. Her face showed the excitement of a scientist who had witnessed something truly revolutionary. "Sora, you have accomplished something that will change everything we thought we knew about xenobiology and interspecies communication." She activated a portable display screen, showing brain scan comparisons. During the linkage procedure, your neural patterns created a template that spread to every creature on the station. They all learned to communicate using modified versions of the psychic network you established with Singer Between Stars. Sora studied the complex charts and graphs with growing amazement. "You mean they can all talk to each other now?" "More than that," Dr. Yu-jin explained. "They can communicate with us if we learn to recognize their new behavioral patterns. The shard wolves use howl combinations to express complex ideas. The crystal wasps create light sculptures that represent mathematical concepts. We are documenting dozens of new forms of interspecies communication." Admiral Hansol arrived with several important-looking officials from different alien species. Sora recognized some of them from the Galactic Scientific Council. They all looked at her with expressions that mixed respect with amazement. "Miss Sora," Admiral Hansol began formally, "I want to personally thank you for saving not only this station, but potentially both dimensions from total destruction. Your courage and unique abilities have prevented the greatest disaster in galactic history." One of the visiting officials stepped forward. She was a tall Velkari with pale blue skin and the large head typical of her species. "I am Director Zalnin from the Galactic Research Institute. We have studied the complete records of your communication with the dimensional being. This achievement represents a breakthrough in our understanding of psychic contact with alien intelligence. Sora felt overwhelmed by all the attention from such important people. I just tried to listen and understand instead of being afraid. Singer Between Stars was never really dangerous. It was just scared and trying to find help. Dr. Rixmore entered the room looking somewhat embarrassed. Throughout the crisis, he had been the most skeptical about human abilities and Sora's theories. Now he had to admit that the primitive human girl had been right, while his advanced logic had been completely wrong. "I owe you an apology," he said stiffly. "I underestimated both human capabilities and the importance of emotional intelligence in scientific research. Your approach succeeded where our most sophisticated methods failed completely." Director Zalnine activated a communication device and began speaking to someone at a distant location. "The Galactic Scientific Council has reached a unanimous decision. We are establishing a new branch of xenobiology, focused specifically on human-alien communication techniques. We want you to lead this program, Sora." Sora looked at her father in surprise. Leading an entire research program was an incredible responsibility for someone who had been dismissed as too young and inexperienced just days earlier. "What exactly would this program do?" she asked carefully. "Research stations throughout the galaxy have dangerous or uncontrollable specimens that cannot be studied safely," Director Zalnin explained. "Your success with Singer Between Stars proves that human neural flexibility can establish communication where other methods fail. We need human specialists to work with these creatures." Admiral Hansol pulled up reports from dozens of different research facilities on his portable computer. "We have already received requests for human xenobiology consultants from 17 different stations. There is a crystalline hive mind on Kepler-12 that has been completely silent for 3 years. A pack of phase hunters on Darwin Station keeps disappearing into other dimensions. A colony of void-spawned creatures near the galactic rim that drives anyone insane who gets too close." Sora felt excited by the possibilities but also nervous about the enormous responsibility. "I am still just 19 years old. How can I train other humans to do this kind of work safely?" "You will not be working alone," Dr. Eugene assured her. "The program will combine human intuitive abilities with advanced alien technology and scientific methods. You will teach other humans the communication techniques you discovered, while we develop better ways to protect them during psychic contact." Commander Talven had been listening to the discussion from near the door. Now he stepped forward with something that looked like respect in his red eyes. "The Drakmor Empire has decided to revise our evaluation of human capabilities. We formally request that human diplomatic specialists be assigned to help with our most difficult negotiations." Sora was amazed by this development. The Drakmor had always viewed humans as too emotional and weak for important work. Now they were specifically asking for human help because of those same emotional qualities. "Why do you think humans are better at this than other species?" she asked. Commander Talven considered his answer carefully. "Other species have evolved specialized abilities that make them very good at specific tasks. But humans have remained generalists. Your minds can adapt to almost any situation instead of being locked into rigid thinking patterns." Dr. Rixmore nodded reluctantly. "The Velkari prize logic and efficiency above all else. But your success shows that sometimes inefficient emotional thinking can solve problems that pure logic cannot handle." Over the following weeks, Sora worked with scientists from across the galaxy to develop training programs for human xenobiologists. They studied exactly what made her communication with Singer Between Stars successful and created methods to teach these skills to other humans safely. The first group of trainees included her father, Dr. Kyung-ho, and several other human researchers from different stations. They practiced with the now peaceful creatures on Kepler-7, learning to recognize psychic communication patterns and emotional resonances that indicated friendly contact versus dangerous situations. The program's first major success came when a human trainee named Dr. Jinne established contact with the silent, crystalline hive mind on Kepler-12. The creature had been refusing all communication for years because previous researchers approached it as a specimen to be studied, rather than an intelligent being deserving respect. Dr. Jinne spent weeks simply sitting near the creature's containment area without trying to force any interaction. Eventually, the hive mind began sharing gentle thoughts with her about its loneliness and desire for intellectual conversation. Within a month, they had established a full communication protocol that allowed the creature to share advanced knowledge about crystal-based technology. Similar successes followed at research stations throughout the galaxy. Human specialists learned to calm aggressive creatures by addressing their emotional needs instead of just trying to control their behavior. Dangerous specimens became cooperative. Research partners, when treated with understanding and respect, the phase hunters on Darwin Station turned out to be interdimensional explorers who had been trying to share maps of parallel realities. The void spawned creatures near the Galactic rim were actually refugees from a destroyed star system who needed help finding a new home planet. Each successful contact reinforced the same basic truth that Sora had discovered with Singer Between Stars. Most apparently hostile alien creatures were not really evil or dangerous by nature. They were usually scared, confused, or trying to communicate needs that other species could not understand. 6 months after the dimensional crisis, Sora stood in her new laboratory on the expanded Kepler-7 research station. Through the large viewport, she could see ships arriving daily with new specimens and human specialists eager to attempt communication with previously uncontactable creatures. Her father entered the lab carrying reports from successful programs throughout the galaxy. 17 different species have formally requested human communication specialists for their research programs. The Galactic Council is classifying this as the most important scientific advancement in over 1,000 years.